Alright everybody, cheers for tuning back in. Hope yous are all good. I'm just getting back, got to do another wee vid. And today I wanted to talk about something that's quite close to, well, that was part of my life as a teenager and a young adult, which is the kind of gang culture slash street life and how people get involved in it. Things that can like kind of make it, like, I don't want to say catalyse it, right? What I mean is like how do people get involved in it? What kind of factors are there in people's lives that push people into it as opposed to no pushing people into it? Now obviously I'm 41-year-old, right? But as a kind of youngster, this was something that was a huge part of my life growing up. And the thing is, in Scotland, we don't really have the kind of same kind of factors in our kind of street gang life that maybe you'll see in America or wherever. Like America, a lot of it's race, whites, blacks, Hispanics, northern Hispanics, southern Hispanics, all this kind of stuff. But in Scotland, we don't really have that because obviously we are predominantly white. And the the fact is that in the west of Scotland, in Glasgow and surrounding areas in particular, it's usually young boys in one area who bear animosity towards boys in another area engaging in the same behaviour. And by the same behaviour I mean like underage drinking, street battling, fighting in the spills over into the schools and out with the schools, all this kind of stuff. Now, as I say, this is something that was a major factor, contributing factor in probably most of my offending growing up. So I would say that as a kid, obviously you don't know better because obviously unless your mum and dad are sitting you down telling you not to do this kind of shit, and because obviously your primary kind of socialisation occurs in the house. And what I mean by that is all your attitudes, beliefs, thought processes, behaviours are all shaped by whoever's raising you. Now it might be your grandparents, your mum, your dad, an uncle, whatever. And the secondary socialisation comes from like the media, peer group, and obviously people you're running about with and all that. Now, as I think I said before, like the area that I grew up in, my parents are nae fae there, right? My parents came from an area called the Gorbals, which grown up in the kind of post-war era, and even just like run about World War Two, right up to probably the now. I think it's died down the now a bit. It's different now, but like this place was notorious for slashing, stabbings. They had shebeens, which was like a kind of, it was like a house that sold alcohol. So it wasn't like a bar. It was like a house you could go to and buy a bottle of whatever for however much. So a lot of kind of high crime area, like poor, like low income houses and all this kind of shit, which is obviously which we've seen in research and everywhere else. You don't need research to tell you this. You can see it if you're living in these areas that these are huge factors in criminal behaviour, whether it's drinking and going out and assaulting somebody or breaking into a commercial premises, whatever it is, right? So I remember, as I said before, I remember my dad like breaking open a can of beer one day, right? And he was sitting me and my brother down. Well, he didn't sit us down like it was kind of formal. What I mean is, I remember sitting down at his feet, and he was telling us these stories, right? These just crazy stories about fighting with boys from Brigton and Kilmarnock, which are other schemes in Glasgow that are just as bad as the Gorbals. At least they were back then. Um, and they would be fighting in the Glasgow Green, their own one of the Clyde Bridges. And I remember me and my brother sitting at his feet, and just been kind of mesmerised by these stories, right? So, in one of my earliest memories of primary school, I'm talking primary one, right? Primary two, my brother was in the year above me, so we went to the same schools. We would have what we called dummy fighting or play fight, which is what you call play fighting, right? So it'd be like primary ones versus primary twos, or primary twos versus primary threes, and we'd all be in the playground. There was this big grassy hill, it was like a dome shaped hill, and we'd all be on top of that, just all rolling about. We'd be getting back into class, covered in grass stains, man, tie askew, and all this shit. Now, I wonder sometimes, did the kind of things my dad was telling me kind of plant this seed where we were, not like me and my brother were ringleaders back then, we certainly had pals and all that, but we weren't like the kind of the main characters. Well, at least I wouldn't say that, and I don't think anybody else would back then, but you never know. Um, I wonder that they kind of stories kind of plant this seed where we were going in and mimicking this behaviour, which is quite interesting in light of what ended up happening further down the road. So I wasn't kind of really into gang fighting and all that shit then, so I was still growing up and being a kid, maybe have a fight in school, whatever, but wasn't part of any kind of street gang and a scheme, whatever, nothing like that. Until the age of kind of, I would say, just when I was on the cusp of my 14th birthday. So my dad died, like, we were staying in England, as I said in another video. We came back to Scotland. My dad died 2 months before my 14th birthday. We had to stay with my dad's parents, right? And after that happened, like, there was this kind of total transformation in my behaviour and my presentation and all that. Like, I was carrying weapons all the time. As I said, I'd been stabbed, running, I get expelled from school, and like would still turn up at school to fight with other boys for other areas and all this kind of shit. Now, this is all kind of, obviously there was boys that had done this with us as well, who some of them have went on to lead law abiding lives. They have jobs, wives, houses, mortgages, never had a parking ticket, never done a day in jail, and that's no knocking them. They actually done well considering, do you know what I mean? Um, but for them that keep that behaviour up, what is it in their lives that cause them to keep doing it, whereas others break away? Do you know what I mean? And that was a huge part of my identity back then. Like, I saw this was the reason I was getting out of bed in the morning, even though I had no school to go to. Like, I remember I would arrange to meet one of my pals or whatever, and we would go actively seeking people who we knew were engaged in this behaviour. Um, Sometimes we would catch one of them and like give him a severe beating, hurt him. Sometimes it happened to one of us. Um, but the funny thing is, like, now that I'm a lot older and I see, like, obviously my son doesn't kind of, he's only 12, but obviously he's going to be at that age soon where anything can happen. But having a strong, positive male role model there is half the battle, I would say, because even though I like listening to my dad's stories about all that, I certainly didn't look up to him in any way, right? If anything, I feel that he taught me how not to be a parent. Um, but that's not to say that what happened to him didn't fucking cause huge pain and upset and trauma in my life, know what I mean? Not to excuse anything that I've done, but it was definitely at the heart of what I was doing, because the pain that I felt through that was driving me to do what I was doing, and I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. And I'm saying this to now, but back then I would never have admitted that, um, because there was that much going on in my life, and it was against my self-image, because I grew up looking up to people that were involved in organised crime, which is another level for the shit we were doing. We were just running about, getting involved in like thuggish behaviour, what the English call the yobs and all that, just like running. I remember like chasing somebody actually onto a bus, me and my pals, and just setting about them with iron bars on a bus. Now, I'm a parent now, right? See now in this day and age, if I seen somebody doing that, I'd be like, what a scumbag. So, whatever way you want to put it, I was being a scumbag as well, know what I mean? And you see these newspaper stories all the time, wee guys at 14 getting murdered in the town and other like schemes all Scotland and the UK. Like, and it's fucking sad any way you want to look at it, because that's somebody's kid. Do you know what I mean? And I used to laugh at people who used to say, "Where's the parents?" All that kind of stuff. But whatever, I don't care what anybody says. Whatever way you want to look at it, I'm not saying it's directly the parents' fault, but it is indirectly, because if you're not keeping tabs on your kid, you're not being a hands-on parent, your kid's no respect for you, your kid doesn't listen, then that is a recipe for prison, addiction, early death, or a lifetime of offending. Um, Everybody in jail probably in this country has probably got a similar background. Well, I would say not every single person, but a statistically significant amount of people in prison have backgrounds of broken homes, abuse, neglect, addiction, whatever way you want to look at it, which obviously which is known as ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So I think there's 10 of these kind of characteristics. The more you've got, like the kind of the higher up the scale you are. Now I remember reading this book. I think it was the woman. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was the woman who had devised this assessment tool. Now out of 10 of them, there's things like, did you ever visit a family member in prison? Were you ever physically abused? Were you ever sexually abused? Were you ever told? Were you ever like shouted at? Did you ever see your mum and dad physically fighting? All these kind of things. Now, they say if you've got any more than 2 or 3, you're traumatised, right? Now, I remember doing this in on the book, and I had 7. The only 3 I didn't have was I never saw my mum and dad battling each other because they were separated. I wasn't sexually abused, and I never visited a family member in prison. So 7 out of 10 is quite high, obviously. Now, I wonder how many kids going about in this day and age actually have all this, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like a lot of it's behind closed doors. But if you know the signs, you can kind of spot kids that are kind of being not looked after properly or whatever. And as I said, I used to laugh at people back when I was doing all this shit who used to say, they've no fathers at home and they've no positive male role models, and I used to be like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you're talking shit, do you know what I mean? But see, the funny thing is, right now, I believe that now, right? Because a lot of young boys I see going about, a lot of them have either got no father figure at home, and a lot of the ones that they don't have a strong male father figure slash strong male role model. So how are these wee guys modelling themselves on? You have to ask yourself. And that's the question that I think maybe needs answered, if like people are saying they want to kind of stop the next generation and all this, because this is just a cycle that keeps repeating itself, right? Which is evident if you live in any of these schemes, and you've lived there a long time, you kind of notice stuff and all that. Now, obviously I'm not seeing a lot of, like, see the gang fighting when I was a kid, it was horrendous, man. When I'm looking back on it, I'm not going to lie, at the time I thrived on this. I loved it. The adrenaline that I got for these incidents was probably at that time was it was a total high. It was like I could only compare it to somebody jumping out of a plane on a parachute. It was just this mad rush. It's that's dangerous to be looking at it through the eyes. I feel that's dangerous because you have no concern for the safety of other people and no concern for your own safety. You could slip in a fucking banana peel and next thing you know there's a knife in your jugular. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just lucky that none of that ever happened to me. Obviously, as I said before, I've been stabbed on more than one occasion. So I've been there, do you know what I mean, and done it to other people. So no complaining about it. I'm here now and I'm breathing and I'm fucking out of prison. So win-win. But obviously, as I said, it's not as bad in my area, but who's to say it won't go that way in the years to come? And I see a kind of lot of this stuff now where young guys are talking like London's like Afro Caribbean words and slang and like they're in a rap video, and that's just something I've never seen before, and I think it's pretty, I don't know, just silly, man. Do you know what I mean? Talking like you're like it's just we don't speak like that up here. Nobody in prison speaks like that. Nobody uses sign language. I know in prison in America they use the sign language, but that's to do with that's more to do with a lot of the time circumventing screws ears. Do you know what I mean? So they're not picking up in the conversation, and it is quite a smart way of communicating. But we don't have that rigid structure here. We don't have like when you want to join a street gang, right? You don't. It's not like the ceremony, like jumping in. You need to fight three guys for 3 minutes and all this shit. We don't have that. You just start hanging about with them. You just start dressing like them, acting like them, and um, take it for somebody who done all that and then some. If you're thinking about that, or if you think that's cool, ask yourself this. And I know that as a kid your brain's not fully developed yet, right? Even some adults' brains are not fully developed, probably my own, right? But where do you think that road's gonna lead? Do you think you're gonna become this big time gangster drug dealer? Um, do you think that you're gonna come out of that life unscathed? If you do come out of that life unscathed, something's wrong. Something's very wrong. Because when I was a kid, and when I say kid, I mean teenager, early 20s, right? Everybody I knew had scars, and I don't mean that like it was a badge of honour or we deliberately set out to get them, but I used to say in jail, right, there was this boy who I can't mind what his name was, but when I was a kid in Pullman, right, everybody had scars all over the back of their head, and the screws used to say, what is that, running away scars? And I used to be like, no, it's because people can only attack me from behind. But just kind of firing one back. But everybody had scars all over their head, and that's for these incidents I'm talking about, gang fighting, just drunk, fucking rolling about with, or their wee Johnny for across in that scheme. Me and him have been fighting for years, and you're walking down the street one night out your nut and you see him and it's game on, innit? Um, and everybody, when I was in Pullman as a kid, not every single person, but everybody from Glasgow in that kind of surrounding area, it was like almost everybody had scars all over their head, right? Some a lot worse than others, and I have a couple, right? But that was almost how you could tell who had been living like that and who hadn't, or who hadn't kind of done as much. Now, it's not even just that, like, there's just so many adverse experiences, if you want to call it that, associated with it. It leads to addiction, prison, alcoholism. Now, I'm lucky I've never been a drug addict or an alcoholic, but obviously I've took drugs back in the day, like Eckies and all that shit. out drinking, partying for the Friday to the Monday. And a lot of people, it's a phase they're going through, right? But for some people, the cycle doesn't end. Got family members that are hardcore addicts and all that, do you know what I mean? And they started out doing all the shit I was doing as well, like my brother, you know what I mean? He's fucked with drugs, do you know what I mean? And it's just nothing good ever comes it. If anything good comes it, the good that comes it is you break free for that fucking life. You break free for that cycle. And if your parents are sitting you down the now while you're engaging in that and telling you, stop doing what you're doing, get a fucking life, get a job, try and think of something you want to be when you're older, whatever. That's bad parenting, man. Because I tell my kid about it all the time, how not to get involved and what not to do and all that kind of shit, do you know what I mean? And it's just a life of heartache. And I'll tell you something else, right? See, if you do think you're going to get into all this and you're going to be the man and like, because when I'm not going to lie, like when I was coming out of prison, like somebody would always have this big party for you. This big, some people you would be, sometimes it'd be a couple of fucking parties for you. You'd need to go to this one that day, and it's all house parties, right? It's no fucking like. Obviously, you'll get people who'll have it in big halls, but I don't. We never done that. We were just having like it was like a kind of homecoming, and like say my grand's one day, my pals the next day, and then somebody else's the next day. We just carry on for like 2 weeks, be drinking and getting mad with it for 2 weeks or something. The thing is, like, you do feel like a bit of a celebrity, um, which feeds into that narrative of you're the man, you're this, you're that, you're the boy, whatever. But where are they all when you're in the jail? Where are they all when you're doing your 16 year? Where's your missus? Know what I mean? Out sleeping with your best pal or something? Or the guy you about to fucking do in? Do you know what I mean? There's endless fucking betrayals and just it's fucking nonsense, man. It is absolute nonsense, that life. Do you know what I mean? Some of us only see that when we get to the end of it, i.e. myself, but um, you'll regret it. You will regret it, and if you don't come to regret, if you live through it and you don't come to regret it by the time you're old enough, um, you'll be fine because you'll not know any better. Do you know what I mean? But you'll be doing time somewhere, and jails are getting worse now. Been in and out of prison for the age of 15, more in than out. And because of the legal highs and all that, guys that you've known all your life that are all up there, they're compass mentis, they've got a brain in their head, they're all fucking flipping. Try to kill themselves, try to cut body parts off. Think screws have put microchips in their fucking arms and aliens are coming to beam them up. Aye, you want that, aye? Be my guest, man. Do you know what I mean? But you're only hurting yourself and the people that care about you, and you're leaving them with that pain. Do you know what I mean? My gran always used to say to me, "This will all come back to haunt you when you're older." But I used to be like, "Not will me, because I won't know any better. This is what I want to be. This is who I want to be." But the funny thing is, she was right. And I'm only lucky that I made it back to the other side, and I didn't get murdered. I didn't get a life sentence. Almost did on both sides of that, but thank fuck, know what I mean? Because you imagine you'd have got a life at that age, and then by the time you're 15, 20 years into that, it hits you. What the fuck have you done with your life, man? Do you know what I mean? And you're stuck there, you can't get down, ring that front bell and say I want to get home, I'll sign the sorry book. Tough shit, mate, you took a life, you need to pay for it, and if you get parole you'll be lucky, do you know what I mean? But what are you coming out to? You know what I mean? It's hard for me when I came out, but I had my son, and I would go through anything for that boy. Nothing would be no hill would be too high. And I'm not going to lie, it was scary as fuck. There's still things that kind of bother me, scare me. I'm fucking human, I'm not a robot, do you know what I mean? Even though I might look like one. But take it for somebody that done it. You might think you might get the short term buzz, but the come down lasts a long time. Very long time in some cases. Too long. Do you know what I mean? So I hope somebody takes something out of that. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't really want to. We've all got some good in us. Most days have got some good in us. Do you know what I mean? Some days have just went through shit we can't deal with or talk about or whatever, so we start doing all these fucking things, you know what I mean? Like, like a show I'm no vulnerable, I'm no weak. But everybody's got some weakness in them, you know what I mean? And there's no shame in admitting that. No shame at all. Do you know what I mean? We've all got strengths, so I would say that you need to find out what you're good at in life, apart from fucking being bad. If you're good at being bad, like myself as a teenager growing up and all that, I would say find out what you're good at in a pro-social sense, something that like fixing motors, building fucking houses, being a lawyer, being a whatever. Find something you're good at and use that to keep you on that straight path. Because if you don't, you're going to end up in a bad place. Do you know what I mean? So, what I'm saying, I'm speaking for experience. I'm no fucking some. I've read a lot of books, aye, but it's what they say. You read it for a book, I lived it. Well, I lived it and then went and read it for a book. So you're getting the best of both worlds. Excuse me. So, hope that was insightful, and I'll catch up with you next time I'm on. Cheerio.